All right, now joining us on the news to discuss President Bola Tinubu's proposed meeting with the U.S. President Donald Trump is Sam Amadi, the director of Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Also, we're going to look at where Trump derived his authority, if you like, from calling Nigeria a country of, by the way, welcome to the program. Glad to have you. I was running ahead of my time. All right, so let's start with that before we dovetail into, if we have time, into the meeting and all that. Where does Trump, or anybody for that matter, derive the authority or power, if you like, to designate Nigeria as a CPC, a country of particular concern?
Okay, first, it's clear to understand that Trump is not exercising a United Nations power. He's not exercising a multilateral power. He's exercising the power of the U.S. president under Article 2. Now, the law, the International Religious Freedom Act, was a law made in 1993, which came out of a concern around violation of religious freedom. So for the first time, 20 years ago, thereabout, the U.S. government decided to prioritize protection of religious freedom in the world as part of their foreign policy commitment. Just like President Tinubu has our 5Ds, democracy, democratization, demography, whatever. When I was, by the way, I used to be advisor on foreign affairs under Yaradua. Yeah. We had our citizen diplomacy. The American government says we're going to prioritize freedom of information because we're a country that came out of protection for religious freedom. Yeah. And we have it as cardinal amendment to the Constitution. Now, that process led to the creation of the U.S. Commission for International Religious Freedom and the appointment of ambassador at large, special counsel. What they do is that they look around the world and they build fact sheets, either from the CIA or from various sources, look at how countries are dealing with especially religious minorities. And then they place them as country of concern. What that means is basically saying, look, the U.S. cites you for violation of fundamental religious freedom, and therefore they could take, say, several unilateral actions. It could include suspension of AIDS as it is, which then perhaps you're no longer a country of preference. And so this is totally within the domestic policy. This is not like a foreign, it's a foreign policy, but within the domestic power as a country. Just
so
like
this is just from what you're saying and what I understand. Yeah. It's just America.
This is America, just like Nigeria can say, you know what, we think the regime in Burkina Faso violates the Commonwealth, or ECOWAS treaty protocol on good governance. But then we're not going to give them AIDS. We're not going to do this, and we're not going to support them. So basically, it's American priority in terms of foreign policy. And because America is de facto global policeman, America is for overreaching because of their superpower.
I like the word
military. Overreaching, obviously. I mean, if China was America, they overreach. If Nigeria was America, they overreach. Look at countries. Look at Nigeria now today. Some ethnic groups are overreaching. It's the nature of human power that they're powerful. And that's why people criticize America. I said, if you give, look at Nigeria suffering. Take, for example, the way Arab countries treat blacks, the way everybody treats racism. Each country trying to dominate is a natural, if you like, you can call it the human condition.
Error.
Human condition, error. So what America is doing is saying, we prioritize, this country, we see you as you are a violator of religious freedom. And their constituency, look, at home, which is what drives American foreign policy. The Christian community, the Christian groups feel strong about that persecution. And again, consistency, whether good or bad, we don't know. Trump said that when he was going to run his campaign, that he feels that Christians are threatened across the world. He gave an example, and if I monitor this a lot. If you look at Open Door, which is one of the world reports on this, Nigeria is ranked #1 countries that violate Christian rights.
Who is ranking China? Nigeria?
Open Door. You see, look at how they rank it. Okay, for example.
No, you know why I asked that question?
Yeah, Open Door. There are NGOs, international NGOs that do the ranking, and they use it on how many people are killed, for example, per month, per year, on the basis of
violation.
For example, Sunday Jackson, the guy from the Middle Belt, who tried to kill a Fulani herdsman, attacked and he killed and went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, he was found guilty. Those records, Deborah, who was killed for Deborah. So these are indicators. So the problem with Nigeria is that Nigerians think that a genocide or a claim of a country of particular concern is that you must use armored cars, roll out one day.
Now you brought up the issue. I want to ask you two questions. Does this, because I mean you have even in a way answered it, they can stop bringing their aids, which I discussed with Professor here. What should Africans be doing, Nigeria be doing? Win themselves of countries like America, so they can be telling you, don't go cap in hand.
First, resolve your crisis of leadership. I mean, we are even a laughable cause. We can't even solve problem of mayor election, talking about becoming economically viable.
Well,
that's a joke.
No, the two questions I wanted to ask is, this their policy, which is an American thing, in-house thing.
Foreign policy.
But it's in-house, is their own.
It's their foreign policy.
Yeah. Should that give them the right to begin to talk about attacking another nation? That's one. And then two, you talked about faith, minority. Now we have two faiths here in this country. You have Christians, you have Muslims. I was interviewing somebody yesterday here, and the person said, we have written to the president, we have made submissions. It is behooving on the Muslims to make their own submissions if they're being killed, because what we read is that both Christians and Muslims are being killed. Let me answer
the two questions. First one is that does America have a right to invade Nigeria because Nigeria is killing its citizens, quote unquote?
According to him.
Quote unquote. That's the narrative of killing Christians in Nigeria. First, no, you have state sovereignty, but the doctrine of state sovereignty is weakened by the reality of today's interdependency. Many states are basically banana cases. They can't defend themselves. They rely on aids and support from everybody. So if you're going to rely on support, then you lose your voice. That's important.
That's the point.
Practically is that the U.S. also can trigger, but that has to be triggered to the United Nations framework. They can trigger the right to protect. See, all nations have a right to intervene to protect violation of human rights. So the question is this case such that we can say there is a real structural violation of human rights by state authority? Now, this is the case against Nigeria, and I tell you straightforward. People are not looking at the Senator Cruz petition, the bill in the parliament. He's saying
that's another totally,
See,
I mean, how can you enforce that in another country?
This is, by the way, this is America addressing their own priority. Okay. Now, he says blasphemy law, Sharia
laws.
In 2000, when the Sharia thing started, Professor Mwabeze and myself, I went to court to Zamfara. I was the only lawyer who went to court in Sabakoba to say, you cannot have a secular, constitutional democracy and have any state or part of it enforce a religious code as law, whether it's applied to one people or not. One, because Section 10 says, and that's the heart of religious freedom, what the Americans call non-establishment and free exercise. Non-establishment says you can't in any way burden or prefer to treat any religion. So that's why if you look at American jurisprudence, they are very honest about it. The Christmas trees are pulled away from public houses. When you have a Bible in historical things that are Christian, the Supreme Court says, no, this is actually violating non-establishment. Nigeria says you cannot have a state religion. So when you use the legislative power of a state to make Sharia criminal law, you have violated religious freedom by itself. Two, when you now convict persons or kill people for blasphemy, and you go to the Supreme Court arguing that, and the Attorney General says, we will kill the person for blasphemy, religious offense, you have violated fundamentally the idea of a constitutional democracy. So Nigeria has pretended, and that's the point. We don't need Trump to tell us this, that we have, since 2000, de jure, by law, we now have 12 Islamic republics in northern Nigeria. Because when I was at Harvard...
Which is wrong.
Which is unconstitutional and undemocratic.
Did you win the case?
When I went to America, before I went to America, the case was withdrawn. First, they said I was not from Zamfara. We brought the indigenous Zamfara people, and the case was struck out. At the Supreme Court, I left. Now, look at the point I'm trying to make. When Nigeria has not taken the responsibility to protect its citizens, to protect its secular character, the Nigeria state has fallen victim and trapped by religion on both sides. And what we have been saying is that state, move away from religion. I'll give you an example. I spoke with, when I was Harvard fellow at the Kennedy School, I had a meeting with Wahid, former president of Indonesia. Indonesia is almost 80-90% Islam Muslim. And I asked him, Indonesia did not have Sharia law. He says they decided not to have criminal Sharia, public Sharia. They only have private Sharia. In 1957, the Northern Region had a committee headed by Professor Anderson of University of London. And they said, don't bring public Sharia. Do only private. In 1959, London Constitutional Conference, we agreed on the same thing. 1979, 1999 Constitution, 2000, Zamfara disrupted this constitutional arrangement. Today, this is why we have this crisis. So this is the point. The president's response should be to say, what are the features of the Nigerian political landscape that are issues of concern? How do we deal with these issues? Forget about the attack. I mean, what Trump tweeted is, oh, if Nigeria keeps killing, we'll send the Marines. That is, by the way, it may happen, extreme madness. But the point is...
I'm happy you used madness to describe that kind of discussion.
Extreme. But the point is, if Nigeria cannot protect its citizens, then they trigger the right of other countries to protect those under customary international law. The right to protect. So the key issues here, sit down and say, look, how can we have a republic where a citizen can be stoned to death on the authority of law? How can you ever have a blasphemy law? And Section 36 of the Constitution, subsection, says nobody should be prosecuted for an offense that's not written in the law. It was put because in 1959 we agreed that Sharia criminal law will not apply.
Doctor,
so in 2000, they have destroyed that constitutional framework, and that's why this crisis continues. And what Trump is just predating on a crisis caused by Nigerian leaders who prefer religion to the rights of their citizens.
And using politics to mask.
Absolutely. So we are now in danger that Trump might perhaps hurt us for our own foolishness.
Well, Nigerians won't. I wouldn't see Nigerians wanting that to happen.
So they have to act quick.
Trump has no business in the country. I mean, but like you've said,
but if you ask the people in the middle belt, they are saying, thank God Trump helped us. If you can't save us, why don't somebody help me?
You see, that's the
I don't care.
Nigeria should correct that.
You should save them. If you can't save them, then Trump should save them. That's the point. Yeah.
Dr. Sam Amade.
The confusion is enough to make us forget our names.
Thank you so much for being on the program.